Welcome to LOA Today. Walt and Mike McEwen here on this Sunday evening, October the 7th, 2018, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. This is your weekend dose of happy, and Mike's sitting in for his wife Anne-Marie, who is trying to wrap things up at, I think, at the Buttonwood. And so he's going to sit in for a few minutes and get the conversation started. Anne-Marie will be along as soon as she can be. But Mike, thanks for volunteering to sit in tonight. That's been great.
Hey, Walt, thanks for having this podcast and the ability for us to tap into this mindfulness and help us guide through the world of law of attraction. So thank you, and thanks to all the listeners out there that are listening in to make a difference in their lives and to practice the mindset of the law of attraction and self-help. So yes.
Yeah, it's a cool thing, isn't it?
Tonight. Yeah.
It's a cool thing that there are so many people who are on the same general wavelength. We're all trying to get into that good, happy place. We're all trying to get into that place where we're attracting the best and, getting the most out of our life, making the life as abundant as we can make it. I mean, that's what the show is all about, and it's about supporting our listeners in that endeavor and talking about our own experiences with it as well. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a terrific thing. And you came up with the topic today. I have to give you credit for the topic. Because the topic is, where's my stuff? And that's why the question, that's a question a lot of people ask, particularly, in early stages when we're still learning how all this stuff works, and even in later stages too. I mean, especially with the quote harder stuff, right? The bigger stuff. Abraham Hicks teaches that it's as easy to manifest a castle as it is to manifest a button, but most of us find buttons easier than castles. It's a funny thing how that works.
I agree. I agree. It sure takes a defined focus to stay tuned in with it. And
right.
For me, Walt, I recognize that it's patience. I'm not a very patient person, and I'm getting better at my patience now. I recognize some characteristics about myself that I need to, let's say, change some old habits and allow the art of allowing to unfold. And that's where I seem to trip up more than I want to admit to, and is in that area of patience.
Now, I'm going to ask an obvious question. What exactly do you mean by patience? Do you mean being patient with yourself? Do you mean being patient waiting for something to show up? Do you mean being patient in some other way? What do you mean?
Well, we hear these phrases like in divine time and in due time, and things happen in its own time, and sometimes I feel I want it to happen now. so in its right time, and I get impatient with that, and it's proved itself to me time and time again when manifestations did occur in my life that it did happen in its own time. And it happened because I allowed it to happen at its own time. But I recognize the things that are not happening, I'm preventing it from happening because I'm impatient, waiting for it. And then it's like I take it away from myself, and now I got to go back to zero and start the manifestation process all over again. That's what it feels like to me sometimes when I'm working on manifesting something in my life, and I seem to be going along really well with it and staying aligned with how I feel about it and excited about it. And then time goes on, well, it's not here yet. And it seems like in that moment, I take it away from myself and I go back to zero. Okay, I'm going to start feeling excited for it again and knowing that, trusting in the universe, that it's going to happen, and not realizing that it really is going to happen in its right time. And I seem to run out of patience. And that's one of the things that I see that happens in my manifestations.
It's just not being patient. Being patient, basically, You're being patient with yourself in a sense, because you're describing a cycle that we all kind of go through, where we get excited about something, and then the doubt starts to creep in, and then we try to build it back up again, and the doubt creeps in, and we build it up back again. Yeah, so it's more being patient with yourself rather than with anything else, because you're the one who's riding the roller coaster, right?
I've created the roller coaster.
You have, yeah.
I know. Yeah, so it is being patient with yourself in the process of manifestations and understanding that you really have to stay excited for it and feel like you already have it. And it's a little tough sometimes to feel like you already have it when you're looking around and there's no indications of that.
It's an interesting point that Abraham Hicks makes. So they make the point, and I don't remember which book it's in, but they make the point that they don't recommend patience, interestingly enough. Did you know that?
Yeah, I do know that. I do know that. But it just seems for me that that's what happens to me. And I don't know who else, out there that's practicing this, if they seem to be going through the same thing. I just thought it would be a topic that we could talk about and maybe find some little things we can do to overcome those doubts and fears in that moment and realize that, for instance, when you write out a check and that you have to pay a bill and you write the check out, you know that there's money in the account, you have the envelope, you put the check in the envelope, the stamp is on there, you put it in the mail, and that's it. It's a done deal. You don't worry about it. It's gone. You paid that bill. But I think I need to know more of that when I put my desire out there in the universe and believe that same process will happen. My desire's out there, it's in the universe, and I'm in line with it. I'm going to stay in line with it, and it will come into my experience because that is the law. And maybe I'm just not trusting in that enough, and I lose my patience in that, and then it just seems like that process just keeps repeating itself.
Well, yeah, I think you uttered the right word there. The key word is trust, because what you're really saying is trusting in the law of attraction being true, trusting in yourself to have properly aligned yourself so that it's going to arrive, and then trusting it's actually going to arrive. Trust is a big thing that goes on in all of our minds, and again, that's where it comes down to: is it as big as a button, or is it as big as a castle? The bigger it is, the less that our trust seems to be there. The more distrust we seem to have, and I think it's probably largely because of the training that we get in our society, and in all societies. Really, all societies have some similar training in a sense. But we all get trained. We get trained that, money doesn't grow on trees. And, what do I look like? Do I look like Rockefeller? Do you think I'm made of money or something like that? Or, it's like all these little aphorisms and beliefs and societal patterns and so forth. And they all add up to essentially the same thing, lack. It's all about lack. So what we're really saying when we are waiting for something to show up and we're getting impatient and we're not really trusting, is that we're focusing on the lack. Mm-hmm. And in that focusing on the lack, we find ourselves in a place of not feeling good, because that lack doesn't feel good. It's an interesting thing. Unless it's like, lack of being hit on top of the head. But most lacks don't feel so good. Maybe I should qualify.
No, lack is... It's a lonely feeling right there, lack. Where is my stuff? Yes, and then also, identity theft and who do we trust? And so trust is the key word. I agree. And trusting in the universe and trusting that it can happen, it will happen in divine time, its own time. And it proved itself to me, even the story that I have in the book about how the money showed up for us to be able to rent the house that we live in now. A lot of things had to line up for that money to show up 3 days before we had to cut the check to sign the lease. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing that just proved to me that, in its own time, it happens. And I know this, but...
Do you feel like retelling that story a bit? Because that's a good story to share about concern about whether something's going to show up.
Oh, sure. I love that story. It's amazing how that unfolded. Back around 4 years ago, Anne-Marie and I realized that the guy that owned the building that we were living in, the apartment we were renting, said we had 3 weeks to get out. He sold the house. And we knew that he had the house on the market, but the house was in a lot of disrepair and there was a lot of issues. So we weren't really too concerned about it selling too quickly, but it sold. And we had 3 weeks to get out. And so I looked at my bank account and I had about $400 in there. I had, and Anne-Marie's bank account didn't look much better than that. And so we're like, okay, well, this is interesting. And she's like, no, don't worry. It's all going to work out. The perfect house will show up. it'll be a house by itself. We won't have to live in an apartment with somebody living on top of us and somebody below us and all of that. And you're going to have a perfect place in the basement for all your tools and everything you need. And I'm like getting really excited for this house that she's talking about. But the other part of me kept going back to the bank account thing. I'm like, well, that sounds really great. So we're driving in the car, heading out to visit with her parents. And she happens to look over and sees a real estate sign on a lawn. And she goes, oh, I know that realtor. I'm going to give her a call. So she called the realtor and she goes, yeah, I think there's a house available or a place to live. And she goes, I'm not sure if the person's still living there, but this is the address. So Anne-Marie takes it upon herself to go out there and do some investigating on her own. And she went and knocked right on the door of this house that we're living in. And the lady answered the door and she gave her a little tour and she came back and she was so excited about this house. Unbelievable. It's everything that I was telling you about. I found our house. I'm like, wow, this is great. You found our house. Great. And then I'm thinking silently and quietly in mind, did you find the money for the house too? So she kept reminding me, we just have to stay positive about it and the money will show up. I'm like, okay. And I really stayed positive with it. And the weirdest thing happened. I had sold a contract about a week prior to this going on, and the situation was I would be starting this contract in about 3 weeks.
You're an actual building contractor, right? I mean, we should let people know you actually you do housing and so forth. I do
construction work. Yeah. I'm a remodeler. So I sold a commercial job, a repair job on an office space. And I said, well, I do have money coming in, but I don't have it right now, but that's okay. I'll just have to stay positive. And 4 days before we were ready to sign the lease, I received a call from the management company that I signed the contract with. And he said, hey, Mike, this has probably never happened to you before. He said, but the building that you're going to be doing the work on, the bank just took it over. And we need to close out all business transactions today. So therefore, that remodel job that we signed a contract with you a week ago, we have to pay you in full for it today, $9,875.83. We have to give you that today before you even start the job. 3 days before I had to write the check for $3,300 for our new place to live. And I was like, okay, if you have to, that's great. So all of that stuff had to line up for us to be able to, to put enough money down to move into this new space that we live in now. So it has proved itself to me, Walt, and I don't know why I struggle with the belief of the law of attraction and the universe will provide for you sometimes, but guilty, I still do, even though it has proved itself to me.
I think what happens is we all have different thresholds, different levels of proof that we need. And I think the levels include frequency. Like, how often has it happened? For some people, if it happens once, that's enough. It's done. For somebody else, it might be they need to have it happen 4 or 5 times. For somebody else, they need to happen 25 times. It's going to vary from person to person, and it's probably going to vary based on what it is that they're attracting, what it is that's coming into their lives. But for whatever reason, and a lot of it probably has to do with how long have they been alive, how long have they been living with lack, how long have they been frustrated. So there's a threshold that you kind of have to surpass, and once you get past that, then all of a sudden you really start to feel like, hey, this stuff really is paying off for me. This stuff really does deliver for me.
Yes, I agree. I also, I don't want to say live in the past or think about the past much, but I do reflect back on certain things that may influence my life and how, for me, being patient with things can be a challenge. And looking back as a teenager, when I started working in the construction industry as a laborer for a company, and there'd be a foundation and a pile of wood, and I was on the framing crew, and it was, listen, we need to get this frame up this house, so the rest of the roofer can come in and all the other parts of the puzzle have to come together. So it was like, we got to get this done. And big push to make it happen. So I was trained to be a person of making it happen. So to sit back and say that the universe can just provide and the universe is going to make this happen, I recognize that, geez, that's not my makeup. I'm used to just getting my hands in the clay and making it happen.
You and everybody else. I mean, we are all trained to be doers. That's what society does. It teaches us how to do, and how to do it, to whatever someone else's standards are usually. But we are doers, and we're expected to be doers, and we expect ourselves to be doers. You mentioned patience a lot, and I can understand what you're talking about. I would like to propose an idea to you, though. I think what we're really talking about here isn't so much patience as it is patience with oneself, or loving oneself. Because it isn't really about patience about whether the thing's going to show up. It's patience with ourselves, with our own. Do I believe in myself enough? Do I believe in what I'm attracting? Do I feel good about what I'm attracting? Am I able to maintain my own vibration? Am I able to maintain my good feeling state? And if I can't, how do I treat myself? I think that's what the real root is. It's about we are really rough on ourselves. It's amazing how rough we are on ourselves.
Yep.
And when you're rough on yourself, you're going to end up, sabotaging yourself. Yes. That's why it's so important that's why it's so important to be, loving toward yourself and caring toward yourself and appreciating all the good things going on in your life and so forth, because that's how we kind of turn it around and counter all the ways we set ourselves up to fail, is by making more time to set ourselves up to succeed, by feeling good, by loving ourselves, by saying, you know what, I'm a pretty good guy, or I'm a pretty good woman, or whatever, whoever we are.
Yes, exactly. And I'm thinking back on the mirror work, and Anne-Marie has suggested to me, maybe you should talk to Walt about that mirror work stuff.
It's effective. It's very effective. I actually started that experiment not so much for building up my ability to love myself, but more about getting rid of chatter in my head. Because I had heard that, I think it was Cindy Chavez told me that Jack Canfield of Secret fame, The Secret, the movie, and of Chicken Soup for the Soul fame, actually that's where he's better known, is an advocate of it. And he taught the idea that if you do the mirror exercises for a 30-day period, the negative chatter that we end up with in the back of our heads, the chatter we have trouble shutting down, it ends up going away.
Yes.
And so I said, well, I would do anything to get rid of that chatter. So, okay. I mean, I never really did good with these 30-day programs, but I'll give it a shot. And I did. And the first day was murder. And the second day was a little bit easier. And the third day was easier than that. But I mean, the first day was tough because I was not used to the idea of looking in the mirror, looking in my own eyes and saying, I love you. It's like, no, it's too weird. I can't do that. But I did. I pushed myself to do it, and I pushed myself to do it for 30 days. And nothing really happened other than, well, that's not entirely true. The first 4 or 5 days, what happened is I became desensitized to actually saying it. The first couple of days were rough, but after a few days of it, that went away. And then nothing really happened for about, 20 days, something like that, until finally around day 20, I began to notice that the noise was about half the volume that it was before. I said, wow. This is making some progress. That's good. I wonder if it'll actually be cleared up in 30 days. And by the time the day 30 came around, it was gone. And it was an amazing thing because that noise, I'd been so used to all that chatter going on in my head that when it finally went away, it was quiet. It was like unbelievably quiet. And I could just sit and, not be inundated with all these thoughts that I didn't want to have. I just sat there quietly. Meditation, I didn't need to meditate for very long. In the past, meditation wasn't even something I could do. Now I just kind of fell into it because there was no more chatter going on.
Yeah, it was. You had a quiet space. You created a quiet space in your head.
Exactly. Exactly. So that was really the main reason I did it. The side benefit was actually the main benefit, which was all that time I'm telling myself how much I love myself and how much I appreciate myself. And I actually would turn it into like a pep talk. After about day
Right.
12 to 15, somewhere around there, I turned them into pep talks as well as, saying the basic stuff and getting myself excited about doing my day. And here's what I'm going to be doing during, during my day. And, it was just like a pick me up for like, okay, here's how my day's going to go. I was actually mapping out my day just by doing the mirror exercises. But,
yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it's very effective stuff.
I think I may have to jump into the mirror for a little while
Mm-hmm.
to see if I found another little thing. I'm always searching and being mindful and reading, and I'm a practitioner of Tai Chi, Qigong, and Reiki healing energy, and so I'm always working on myself as far as that in that realm. And somehow I came across this saying that really resonated with me. I don't know who wrote it, but I wrote it down because it's really working well for me. And it goes like this. It goes, as you think, you feel. As you feel, you radiate. As you radiate, you create. So when I'm in a moment and I realize that I'm derailing myself, I'm beating myself up because I'm a person of high vision, and I set these sometimes really lofty goals, and and when I don't see it unfolding the way in the time frame that I would like it to, then that process starts that we were talking about earlier. So then I recognize that's the time for me to go back and reflect on what am I thinking right now, and what am I feeling about those thoughts, and what is it that I'm radiating, because I'm putting it out there for it to find a component to that to show up in my experience. So I need to change the way I'm thinking right now. So that little phrase has helped me get through some of this, I guess, beating myself up over things that I feel that should be arriving in the time frame that I would like them to.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to share that to see if that may work for somebody else as well. Yeah.
Because ultimately what you're doing there is you are describing with that little phrasing the fact that when we start having a thought, the thought builds and it starts to develop its own momentum. That's what the radiant part really describes. And because it takes like 4 sentences to go through that little description, you actively have some time built in that kind of expresses how the more that we focus on something, the more that we build up the momentum behind it, and the more powerful it becomes. Abraham talks about how you want to focus for 17 seconds, and if you focus on a thought for 17 seconds, another thought will manifest out of that one, leading to the next one and the next one. You do that 4 times through, or 64 seconds, or 68 seconds rather. If you do that, then it actually starts turning into a physical manifestation. And as long as you don't resist it, that physical manifestation will show up. Although, interestingly enough, Louis D'Souza, who does the Monday Morning podcast with me, tells me that Abraham has now shrunk that 17-second range down to 14 seconds, saying that since Abraham first started talking about 17 seconds, apparently the overall global vibration of human beings on average has improved dramatically over the years that Abraham has been received by Esther Hicks. So I guess now it's down to 14 seconds. So it's 14 seconds for the manifesting the next thought, and then I guess that would be 56 seconds for starting the manifestation of a thing. So it's all speeding up a little bit. That'll make you feel better. That's like 3 seconds left. You have to be patient for every single piece of that little thing.
Yeah, well, we have to hone our skills in now a little bit more, pay more attention to that. So we have 14 seconds to get off that rampage and get yourself back into alignment. And,
so it's actually less time. It makes it easier. You don't have to put as much effort in, right?
That's right. Boom.
Yeah, there you go.
This is exactly what I love about your podcast, that, we can talk things out. And I've listened to a lot of Esther Hicks and other teachings as well, aligned with the law of attraction. And after a while, you listen to a teaching and you just hear wah, wah, wah. But when you get the opportunity to talk something out like this, I think it's very powerful. It's a great thing that you're doing here, Walt. And the people that come on to your co-host, and they have so much variety to offer the listeners. This is a good thing.
Well, yeah, I learned that pretty early. If the more perspectives you have involved in the conversation, the more interesting the conversation is. And that's really the principle that we run on here with, 8 co-hosts now? I have 8 co-hosts. I can't believe it. I used to have 1.
Yeah. Yeah, it's growing. It's growing, and more people are listening to the podcast. It's great.
It is, yeah.
And I'm excited that more people are spending time on mindfulness and realizing that they do have to make some changes in their lives if they want things to change. So it's very exciting, and this helps me be able to communicate some of the things that. And I've been a practitioner of this for a while. I've had some great successes with it, but I know along the way we still can trip up. And to be able to talk that out, and then you bringing up the mirror work is something that I really think I should consider, because
mirror exercises are so easy. I mean, because actually, you know what the hardest part of a mirror exercise is? The hardest part is after you say the initial, okay, Walt, I'm going to grin and bear it. I'm going to say, okay, I love you. Now what do I say? I just said the thing I need to say. And now you're trying to spend as much time as you can, because the more time that you're in front of the mirror doing this stuff, the more impact that it has, and the more that it positively impacts your subconscious mind and your conscious mind during the day and so forth. So you want to spend the time on it, but what are you going to say? And ultimately, I find that every day I kind of spin a different yarn. I make a different story, so to speak, as I'm talking to myself, usually based on what's going on. What's going on with the day, that's what's coming up next. Because that's what's on your mind, right? What's coming up next. So I try to make it something positive about what's coming up next. And then after I've said a few things like that, I'll just go back and I'll repeat, well, I really do love you. I'll try to talk myself into it, right?
Yeah, you got to. Well, I've heard, and I believe that it's true, that you have to hear something 7 different times by 7 different people. And I've heard a lot about this mirror stuff, and now I'm hearing it from you, and you just may be the 7th person.
Oh, okay. So you're going to take some action. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to take some action on this now, and that'll be good. Because I'm always willing to, try the techniques and experiment with new ways for mindfulness and to create a better you and be able to help somebody else along the way that could be, struggling with some of these issues. And realize that, it's just a subtle adjustment one way or the other could make a big difference for you.
It does. And really, it's true with any of these processes, because we have lots of different processes that are given to us, right? I mean, we could probably name a whole bunch of them. Meditation is probably the most basic one, but there are like all these little games you can play. There are, there's like money games, and there's prosperity game, and there's there are like 22 processes in the back of the Abraham Hicks Asking It Is Given book, and you see online there's like the 55 by 5 process and the 2 cups, and there's endless numbers of these processes to be done. But the one thing that they all have in common is they don't do you any good unless you do them. And that's the thing. That's the thing that I've realized, because I don't like doing all of them. I don't know about you. I've tried a number of them. No. And some of them just don't. I mean, I start doing them. It's like, no, this just doesn't feel right. And then there are others that feel good. And I think that's really what it comes down to, trying each one, seeing which ones feel good, see which ones say, oh, no, stay away. I'm not going to do that one. And then, creating your list, so to speak, of, things that you can do. Like, I was in a conversation with Patty Framo, who does the Monday afternoon podcast with me a few weeks back, because I was having some trouble. I was struggling with some stuff. And she reminded me that, there are all these processes. What I should probably do, she said, is make a list of them and write the list down and then keep it handy where I can refer to it. I thought, that's a great idea. Why doesn't everybody ever suggest that to me? But I'm glad she did. She did suggest it. So right after I got off the phone with her, I just sat down and wrote up a list. I came up with 16 items for my list. When I was all done, I said, wow, I have a lot of things I can do to go feel better. So it's helpful to have something like that on the side, just kind of waiting for you to remind you that, yes, these are the things that have worked well for me in the past. And they may not be the same thing as what works well for Mike or for Anne-Marie or for anybody else, but they are what work well for Walt. So that's Walt's list. And everybody needs to create a list like that, because if you create a list, if you create a list, first of all, it tells you you've spent a lot of time trying out practices, so you know which ones you like, which ones you don't like, and that's a good thing.
Correct.
The other thing that you know is you know which ones work for you now, right? And that's why it's your list. Right. That's what makes it your list. So.
And you have that list readily available. If somebody should say, well, have you tried this? I'm
looking at it right now. I'm looking at it's literally taped to the wall in the office where I do the podcast. So I'm looking at it. Great. It's right in front of my nose.
Well, I have a pen in my hand. I think I'm going to start some of my lists too.
Yeah. I would urge our listeners to do the same thing too. I mean, it really is worthwhile. If you have done any of the processes that are out there, just sit down maybe after the podcast and make a short list. It doesn't have to be real long. I mean, I came up with 16, but you may not have 16. That's okay. If you have 2, great. You've got 2. Start the list with just 2, and then keep trying some other processes. Everyone that you find out about, give them a try. I mean, I actually combined 22 into 1 because I included the fact that Asking It Is Given has 22 processes at the back, but I included that as just 1. So instead of 16, okay. I probably have closer to 43 or something.
Wow. You had no idea when you started your list that it was going to end up like that. Yeah. Well, that's the power of that process when you sit down with the pen in your hand. And maybe I should sit down and write my desires out and actually put them in an envelope like I do when I send out a check to pay a bill and mail it to the universe.
You can do that.
Maybe it'll help strengthen my belief that, hey, it's getting there and it will come into my experience because that's the law as long as I stay true to and aligned with it. Maybe it's the process of writing it down that will make the difference for me sometimes.
Writing is actually important. Writing is very important. What I've been reading a book that Joel Elston gave me called "Success Is Not an Accident," and in this book, the author of the book was actually, he's since deceased. He was a professional hypnotherapist, and I believe he was actually a hypnotherapist to the stars, because I did a little research and I found that up until the end of his life, he was married to Florence Henderson, who played the mom in the Brady Bunch. So I'm pretty sure he was like a hypnotherapist to the stars. And the methods that he teaches are the methods that he used when he helped all these very famous people we've all heard about. So, but anyway, my point is that with his with what he had learned, he had learned that when we well, first of all, we all know about these tapes that we kind of put together in our subconscious minds that we acquired from when we were kids, right? And have acquired throughout our lives ever since then, and stored there. And many of these tapes actually work against us. I mean, you talk about patience. You talk about how sometimes you're impatient. Sometimes it's like, where's my stuff? Why isn't it showing up? And that kind of thing. Well, very often we are working against our own subconscious minds that have stored tapes that say, oh, you don't deserve to have that kind of thing. Or, no, that doesn't happen in our family. Or that's not the way we do things. In this school, we do things differently. Whatever it is, there are going to be all kinds of tapes in there, many of which are going to work against us. Well, this guy, his name was Dr. John Kappas. Kappas discovered that essentially you can hypnotize yourself, but you can also get the benefit of hypnotizing yourself without actually hypnotizing yourself. And you basically do it through writing. So when you say writing, when you talk about journaling, writing actually is a very powerful way to overwrite the tapes, the negative tapes that are stored in the subconscious mind. And if you write the right stuff, you essentially replace them with positive tapes. And that's basically at the core of what he's doing. You're rewriting your story, literally. Yeah. In fact, there are scientific studies, he said, that reinforce the idea that handwriting, it basically takes whatever it is you're writing down and reinforces it, because then you have to read it back to yourself to make sure you got it right. So you got the message again. And then later on, if you review it again, now you got the message a third time. So through writing, we actually give ourselves multiple opportunities to re-imprint the message on our subconscious minds. Which is pretty cool.
That's very interesting. Yeah, it is very cool. Now I'm thinking that Anne-Marie may have set me up tonight, knowing that I had to call you on this call to straighten out some of these things that I've been tripping up with. Yes, because that is important to do so. And I'm going to take action on this stuff because I do have some very lofty goals that I'm working on. I've been in the construction industry now for over 30 years, and I'm shifting over into a new career, and it's taking its own time. So I'm working on allowing it to unfold and believing that it will unfold in the way that I'm intending it to unfold. And
can you talk at all about what it is you're moving toward?
Well, I've been studying Tai Chi and Qigong now, and certified instructor of Tai Chi and Qigong and Reiki healing energy for a long time, and I've been moving into the healing arts in line with helping people through the healing arts and developing different programs and leveraging other business entities to enhance my efforts in the healing arts. And some of the stuff that I'm working on seems to be a little ahead of its time because of where we're at in the healing arts.
What
and
do you
I'm
mean
really
by
excited.
That? I mean, what makes it ahead of its time?
Well, for people to be able to access what they need to assist them in healing on their own, like we don't have insurance available to pay for it. So a lot of it has to be paid out of pocket. And the facilities are starting to show up in wellness centers, but they're still not covering the whole realm of the healing arts and how people can be taught certain things. As you know, even when people get together in color, that's a form of healing. But pulling it all together and putting it into one program where people can get access to it, and how we can get insurance companies to pay for things like that, or find resources that people can get to, that they can afford, and then just the knowledge, the knowing of Reiki and how to use it, and know that we can use the techniques and heal ourselves with the Reiki practice, and taking the time to understand and study the art of Tai Chi and breathing and movements.
What is it that you find that's so similar between Tai Chi and Reiki that they both draw you in? Because you're very much drawn into both of them. I mean, you talk about them a lot. All the times that you and me and Anne-Marie and Louise are out to dinner, that's one of the main topics of conversation for you. So they're clearly important to you. But what are the similarities that they share that really draw you in, that make you say, yeah, this is what I want to be spending more of my time in my life doing?
It's the intention of energy. And what you can do with the energy. It's recognizing that we have the ability to intend whatever we want to do with this energy, and opening up the energetic pathways to allow that to happen in our body. It's kind of like believing in the universe, believing in the energy and recognizing it in yourself and knowing how to use it. So there's very similar and parallel things in all of the genres of healing, but Reiki and Tai Chi is really about the activation of the palms and the energetic pathways, like I do in Tai Chi, opening up the energetic pathways to breathe, and through the slow flowing movements are able to shift my energy from one part of my body to the other, and the intention of it, and with the slow movements and the breathing together combined, it happens. And it's very powerful and relaxing. The same as that happens in Reiki healing energy.
What is it about that you find to be so desirable? Why do you think that that's such a great thing? Because you obviously love the idea of working with the energy, but why? What is it about the energy that you like so much?
It's a very simple process once you break it down, and it can be taught in a very simple way. It's just, once you realize it's there and how to utilize it, it's very powerful. It can help you get through a lot of say you have you've been diagnosed with a chronic whatever pain and arthritis or whatever it may be. By utilizing the intention of the energy, you can relieve the pain through that process. And It does not have to be very complicated. And Reiki healing energy is simply, have you ever had a toothache and you just placed your palm on your cheek and it kind of like the pain went away a little bit?
Mm-hmm, sure.
That's how, that's basically Reiki healing energy. So it's a very effective, simple process. And that's why I'm excited about it. And there's a lot more people plugging into it and practicing it, but it takes time. It takes a defined focus and finding the time to study Reiki and Tai Chi and Qigong or yoga. And I feel that I can provide a platform where people can utilize the techniques in everyday movements, where they get the same benefits of Tai Chi and Reiki healing energy and things that they're already doing. So I'm a little bit ahead of my time with how to get that information out and how to build that business. So I'm not sure quite how to build it. So
well, let's see if we can help you.
Part of my manifestation.
Let's see if we can help you right here, because obviously from a law of attraction perspective, most of what's involved in building a business is the thought process and the feeling process that goes with it. So let's see if we can build some of that up now. Like if you were going to let's assume that today is where you go full time into being a Reiki coach and Tai Chi and Qigong and so forth. That becomes your main career, okay? And then let's say starting today, looking forward by say 5 years. What does it look like in 5 years? What does the business look like? What's happening? What result have we gotten to? What do you see going on that's making you so excited about what has happened over the past 5 years?
I envision that traditional doctor in their practice will realize that they can help people in a more natural way and open up more of that in their practice and be able to go in and leverage that practice. So that practice becomes more of a, we can help you in other ways besides pharmaceuticals. We can help you. We have this program that we've now brought into our practice, and we're seeing great results with it. And we'd like to offer you this, opposed to a pill.
So you basically
I'd like to see more of that happen.
You envision yourself playing the role of being a trainer of the physicians, in a sense.
An educator, of going in and utilizing already built practices and enhancing them, making them better, having more to offer patients, more resources, more education about what is it they can do when they're suffering from chronic pain or whatever, to be able to utilize this stuff now, like make a decision. Medicines, are needed when they're needed, but a lot of cases, people are taking medication for pain where they could, I know there's pain management places, but it's still not covering what it is that, healing can do.
Okay.
It's still some sort of medicine. So I see that's where my focus is, utilizing wellness centers, bringing them to the next level, working with naturopath doctors and bringing their practice to the next level of healing and being a part of all that and having success with that and having patients have success with that.
Now, as we look into the future, 5 years down the line, you have been doing this for 5 years now, and you've become somewhat established in the area. You have a number of clients who are themselves physicians. What are they saying about their experience of what they've learned from you and about what you've helped them to achieve with their own practices? What are the doctors saying?
They're seeing a difference in their patients. They're saying that they're now able to help the patient instead of just, putting a Band-Aid over a situation, a medical situation, that the patient is actually receiving great results with what we're doing with them. We're working with them one-to-one, and it may be something in the absorption of what they're taking for supplementation or their whatever medication they may be on. Maybe they're not absorbing it, and they're seeing success across the board. And more of them are shifting towards wellness opposed to, I guess we can call it standard practice of treating a patient when they come into a doctor's office. I'm somewhat a bit disappointed in that process. So I really feel strongly that it's time for that shift, and there's a lot more awareness of that happening, and I'm very confident that it will happen, and I know that I want to be a part of that, so I see the success already happen.
As you look into this 5 years ahead, do you see the physician community that you're working with accepting the ideas easily? Do you see them putting up a lot of resistance? Is it somewhere in between? What's your vision? What do you expect? What's your expectant position? Your feeling of expectancy going forward?
Well, I feel that the right person that gets involved will find other ways to create their income through the wellness and be happy in their life from shifting over from traditional medicine into the healing arts. And it's going to grow into a vibrant business for all, because the paradigm shift is now happening and a lot more people are looking for a better way. And just the way that people are treated, I see that there's going to be a lot of relief and less stress on the physician's part, and also the patient, where they come in and, normally right now you go in, you have 10 or 15 minutes with a patient where you could actually spend a half hour or an hour with them, or whatever it may take to get them to where they want to be health-wise. Mm-hmm. And I just see that growing very, it's a strong industry. I see it unfolding, and I believe that that's happening. And so I believe that I be a strong part of that.
Everything that we've talked about so far has had to do with influencing physicians to medical people to incorporate the healing arts, Reiki and Tai Chi and so forth, into their practices. Is that the extent of what it is that you have in mind for your vision, or do you envision other things? Like, are you teaching classes to the public, or are you training other people to become practitioners, or is it just, are you thinking specifically physicians, or do you also have a broader vision than that?
Well, I see a healing arts center as a place where you can get educated on all of that, where yes, you can take classes and you can get involved at all levels of it, mm-hmm. and understand more about it and how to become a practitioner of it and help other people with it and educate other people. And I will continue to run classes and teach Tai Chi techniques and Qigong and Reiki healing, and one day have a school within the healing arts community that will teach everybody that's interested in learning more about it. Mm-hmm. Because it's, sometimes it's just the knowing that, you need to educate yourself about it. It's a scary thought to think that, hey, I'm going to stop taking some of these meds that I'm on, and trusting that, I'm going to be able to breathe a certain way or spend time thinking a certain way, and I'm going to heal that way. So it's all about the education of that and how to inform people and let them experience it and understand it and have success with it. So there will be a training facility, and I'd like to utilize stuff that's already there instead of, building a separate facility. Utilize existing facilities somehow. I'm not sure how that will look, mm-hmm. But I trust that it will unfold, because there are a lot of healing centers popping up through yoga centers and whatnot, and just maybe taking those out another step, mm-hmm. bringing other things into it. And I'm also training a lot myself and learning more as I go along to be able to assist others in that and train people to train people. It's I want to pass this knowledge forward. I have over 30 years of experience in this area, and I learn more every day. So mm-hmm. things shift and change all the time, and I feel that this is the area that I want to go into, and it will happen. I'll make it happen. I'll believe it'll happen. It can happen.
Well, what we've been doing for the last 8 to 10 minutes or so, what we've been doing is helping you give voice to your dream. And in doing that, we've been doing what we talked about. We have been building that momentum up. I mean, we talked earlier about focusing on something for 17 seconds and then 34 and 68 and so forth. And after 68 seconds, something started to manifest. Well, we're well past 68 seconds, Mike. We're many minutes past that.
So yes, and there's any practitioners out there that are interested in how to do more of that with me, you can certainly contact me, and we could talk more about that.
Absolutely, yeah. If somebody is listening to this, how do they reach you? Tell them.
Well, you can reach me at MikeGonow@gmail.com, or you can reach me at 203-515-0818. That's my cell phone number.
In the U.S.
And we could share more information about the healing arts, because I'm very passionate about that. I love helping people out with that energy work. And the more I do in that area, the better it is for all of us. And like when we get into a group and we're doing Tai Chi together, the energy that's created in that room or that space is incredible. It's very powerful, very healing. It's like listening to a choir sing, or it's that energy, it's that positive energy that's all around you. It's amazing. I really enjoy that part of my career, working with people with the energy work. And younger, I worked with a girl the other day. She's just in like maybe 19, 20 years old, just started college, and she attended one of my classes at the Buttonwood Tree and really fell in love with the understanding of energy, and she really caught on well, and she wanted to learn more about a bamboo stick routine that I have created, and I fit her with a bamboo stick and gave her a 20-minute lesson yesterday and sent her off with her bamboo stick, and she just texted me tonight with a picture of the stick and a great thanks, and she's really having great success with that. So it's very rewarding.
What's the story with the bamboo sticks? I mean, interesting little thing you're bringing in there, but you got to tell us more. You can't just say, "Oh, well, it's bamboo sticks." We got to know what you're talking about. How do you use the bamboo sticks?
The bamboo stick is it started with the staff routine. The staff is a fighting stick, and I found a bamboo stick a long time ago, and I was practicing staff routines, and somehow I misplaced my staff. So I found this bamboo stick, and I just started twirling it around like I was practicing the staff form. And I realized that using a bamboo stick, it was very light, and I was able to use a lot less effort in the movements with the stick. So being able to hold the stick, and it was more like Tai Chi, like, because the stick is very light, and I could raise the stick up with very little effort. And I started playing around with that, and I created a routine to stretch the body out by utilizing the bamboo stick. And I'm having some great success with that. I've not unleashed too much of it yet. I'm still developing parts of the routine. I have part one finished. I will be offering out a video out online probably in the next few months, where it'll be accessible, and I'll make sure that your podcast listeners will have access to it, where it'll be a free little demonstration of what the bamboo stick can do as far as stretching your body out, and we'll see where that goes. So it's stuff like that I work on. So, and I tried it out with a few of my students, and we're having great results with it. And so that's what the bamboo stick is. It allows you to utilize the stick to stretch your body out in a way that you would not be able to without the stick.
Okay.
By simple movements, yeah. Mm-hmm. You would have to actually experience it to understand it, but in really simple terms, it's just the bamboo is a very strong plant. It's a strong stick. It's light, and it's just an amazing tool. And it just kind of happened. So I'm very blessed to be able to have that to work with, and that's part of the healing arts too. Just finding other resources to help people.
So we started off talking about where's my stuff, and
why
hasn't it shown up, and so forth. But we evolved it into a session on how to focus on what it is that you want to bring into your life, and how to stay with that focus and describe it and give it taste and texture and color and feel, and in the process of doing that, make it real. So in that context, as you look back on the original topic, now what does it feel like to think about, well, where's my stuff? Does it feel any different to you? Does it feel like somehow that isn't the sticky problem that it seemed earlier on in the conversation?
Well, yes, things do feel a lot different now, and realizing that you have to get out of your own way, and I put myself in my own way, like maybe a lot of us do, and it feels like I have moved forward, and really enjoyed this whole interaction with you, Walt. And
so you start to get out of your own way.
Things.
That's really what the big benefit is. You start to get out of your own way. That's a good thing.
I'm starting to get out of my own way. Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I know that about myself, and it's happening less and less. And utilizing these techniques that we talk about really helps.
We also talked about
results from it already.
We also talked about the mirror exercises and how effective they are in helping to build up, how we feel about ourselves and so forth. One thing that I found was very helpful to me, you might want to incorporate that when you start doing them. If you decide to follow through, like you said you were going to do, you might want to try incorporating different ways of expressing what you tend to experience as you try to apply all this stuff. For instance, just in the last few minutes, you were saying to me, various different ways, you in various different forms, you were saying, well, I'm guilty of this, or I trip over that, or I have problems with this. Maybe part of the mirror exercise is giving yourself credit for what you get right instead of, tripping over stuff. Instead of, getting a little bit tough on yourself for, I get this wrong, I don't do that part right, and all that kind of thing. Maybe it's about changing the self-dialogue so that you give yourself credit for all the things you do well.
That is important, and you're absolutely right. We need to do more of that, and I'm aware of that, and I do practice that more.
That's good.
I talked about the things that I do trip up, but I do congratulate myself on the little things, and I do trip up a lot less than I used to.
Yeah, well, that's really the goal.
Knowing that is very powerful, and I really appreciate all that advice, because it is true, and you need to be reminded of that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes on a daily basis.
Yeah, sure.
Your verbiage of how you talk about yourself is key. How you think about yourself, what you say about yourself, how you feel, it's all important.
Well, when you do the mirror exercises, once you start doing them daily, you're going to find that you'll talk about yourself less like that. It's not like something that will even be an effort. Just because you do the mirror exercises, and they only take a couple minutes every morning, but just because you do those mirror exercises, the way that you talk about yourself will just naturally change, because you've been implanting new ideas in your own head, in your own subconscious mind about who you are and about how you feel about yourself. So you'll tend to cut yourself more slack. I think you'll find that you'll give yourself more of a break. That's what I've been finding anyway. In fact, the only mistake I made, Mike, was I took a break. I stopped doing them. I mean, I had done them for like 3 months in a row, and then I stopped. And I got to get back to doing them. I've been doing them irregularly, but I got to get back to doing them regularly, because it does make a big difference, no doubt.
Well, here's a question for you, Walt. Would you brush your teeth before you talked into the mirror?
Actually, believe it or not, I don't even include them in the same hour. They're just not part of the same process at all.
Okay, you just get right into it. You get up and get right into that mirror work. Okay.
I really do, yeah. I will walk out of the bedroom, down the hall and into the office where I have the mirror set up, and I'll just go right to the mirror work. I don't even waste any time.
Oh, okay. Wherever there's a mirror, you'll just jump right in and practice the techniques of the mirror work. Okay.
By the way, another little clue for you. There have been times where I was away from home, or I just couldn't get to it in the morning. I needed to get to it in the afternoon, but there wasn't a mirror handy. A smartphone works great, because you know how smartphones have the camera built in to do a selfie? That same camera is great for doing mirror work with.
Okay, so there's no excuse.
Because you can see yourself, right? When you're doing a selfie, you can see yourself in the screen. Well, that's like looking in a mirror. So you just eliminated the excuse. Well, there's no mirror around. That's
you
right.
have one in your hand. So.
Yeah, it's all gone. So that's it. You're done. So you'll have to come back next week, and tell us how it's going with the mirror work.
I will keep you informed with that. And somehow I think Anne-Marie blew us off this evening here, Walt. But I enjoyed spending the whole time with you. So
I enjoyed it too. I'm so glad that you did it, and I'm glad that we had the time. And I look forward to the next time the four of us, you, me, Louise, and Anne-Marie, get out and have some dinner and close down a restaurant again.
Yeah, it's been a while. Let's do that.
We got to do that.
Thank you very much, Walt.
All right, and we'll see you all next time as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.